Hey, Brandon here. This is channeled advice on the week ahead, and this is for September 16th through the 22nd, Monday through Sunday. I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time from my spirit guides, the angels, and source. I'll be reading through. I will also be flowing with any additional channeled information from them, and I'll be working with my intuition to bring through any additional information that would be for your highest good, in addition to these things that came through ahead of time as we read through these. They are redirecting me away from the first thing that I was going to say, and instead they're showing me a slinky because the first thing was snake. So let me see what's coming through with the slinky for you here. It's like a rainbow plasticky one, but there's also a metal one here. There's a reminder that life is not a race because there's these like two slinkies racing down the stairs. And it can be really tempting to compare yourself to others or think you're not good enough or think your life sucks compared to everyone else's. It's more about like you creating the life you'd like to create than it is what do other people have or appear to have. It's more about walking, running, whatever, your own race and moving towards your ideal life. So do your best to stop comparing yourself to others and instead ask, what would you really like to have? Because that's where your joy is going to be more than, of course, trying to keep up with the Joneses or anything like that, just as a reminder. So, first thing that came through ahead of time, they showed me a snake, and the message is walk away from the people who bring you down. There is a mass exodus of people moving away from what doesn't serve them. You're going to find it much easier to shut down people who are treating you poorly, and you're going to find it much easier to walk away from what's not serving you. It sounds like the energy just supports that. The other message, in addition to that, don't stay around people because it's comfortable. Forge your own path. And that's going to be really key here, especially that last bit. Forging your own path, even if it's uncomfortable or it's uncomfortable for you or people around you. Mm, there comes a choice where if you are staying around people who you just happen to be or feel more limited around them, or they try to limit you in some way or hinder you, if you keep choosing it, like you're making that choice to be limited or to be hindered or to be kept around things that bring you down. So it might be time to really examine and walk away from what is pulling you down, what does seem to be limiting you, what does seem to be the thing that's in the way of you making the life choices you'd like to make, etc. And sometimes there are just circumstances around us and source, the universe is keeping us in a place for a reason, or we're keeping ourselves in a place for a reason. We're gaining something from that. Maybe it's not always time to forge ahead 24/7. So I want to see where else I want to go with this. Just know that the energy is supporting you walking away from, they're showing me words like misery or things holding you back. And it's probably time to move forward away from those things. And that's pretty much all they want me to say on that for now. So number two here, ahead of time, they showed me a lion. They said there are major leaps toward, oh, sorry. The phrase was major leaps towards your desires. It is really time to take action towards your desires and to start getting the habits in place that will get you to where you'd like to go. Be brave and head towards your dreams, or at least what you desire. You can start small. However, taking action is going to be what gets you there for most of you tuning in, or at least that's going to be parts of getting you there, in addition to receiving, you manifesting, etc. So what I'm hearing is it is time to take major leaps. It is time to, in some ways, I know the one of the main phrases for last week is it's go time. I'd say it's still go time. What are the things you need to put in place to really move towards your desires? Like, what are the big action steps you're avoiding that will actually move the needle towards what you desire? Is it this thing you need to buy that will allow you to create this next project? Is it something you're really putting off or avoiding that you know is going to move things forward? So try to put those things in place. And one of the key words in here somewhere was habits. So start getting the habits in place that will get you to where you'd like to go. Sometimes that's all we need to do. If we'd like to get in shape, for example, or get more fit for whatever reason, whether it's health or you're trying to be more attractive or you're trying to work on yourself, whatever it is, I don't judge the reason. Sometimes all we need is the habits of just exercising, the habit of moving more frequently, the habit of eating more cleanly in a way that our body likes, or the habit of listening to our intuition and talking to our body intuitively or in a channeled sense. regarding what you eat or do for movement or how you spend your time. Even that could be a habit you get in of just checking with your guides, checking with your body, things like that. And what if that is speaking to you, that part, like what are the habits you can put in place that are just gonna like start to more get you to where you'd like to go, whether it's automatically or just it just sets you up to have that. It's a good foundation to have in your life that moves you in the direction you'd like to go. And how can you stay consistent with that so you could actually have what you'd like to have, you know? So just keep that in mind right now. For some reason, that's a message that is coming in. But I'll reiterate. It's time to take major leaps towards your desires or start putting things in place to move towards them. The other thing that was popping in is Mercury went direct a couple weeks ago. We are out of the Mercury retrograde shade, you know, the period. Uh, I really dislike the whole shade thing, the shadow period thing. I think it's a whole interesting thing. And they're telling me to tell you, I think it's interesting that some people will be like, oh, it's 2 weeks of Mercury retrograde shadow after each Mercury retrograde, Peter. So, period. So, before and after, it's 2 weeks of extra Mercury retrograde. But then some readers are like, oh, it's like 3 or 4. I'm like, how much time are you going to lose your year to Mercury retrograde and Mercury retrograde shadow if you're going to extend it out 4 weeks on either side? Like, how many weeks does that leave a Mercury direct? It's just nonsense. The other thing is, I found sometimes if I buy it's going to be like a 2 week period, it's only a 2 week period. If I buy it's going to be a 3 week period, it's a 3 week period. So how much of it is self created by us anyways is another question I'll pose. And I know some of the astrologers are going to be mad at me for saying that potentially, and I don't care because I think we're more powerful than we realize in a lot of instances. So at least consider that idea if it doesn't feel true to you, whatever. But anyways, I wouldn't let Mercury like ruin your life or be a cage or jail for you in the first place. Anyways, we should be out of the shadow period, so it is a good time for like whoop, movement potentially, and things kind of falling into place, or maybe even starting to change where they felt stuck as well. Is something I'm hearing. So number 3 here, I'm not saying that everything I just said was like perfect, by the way. Take it as it resonates. Number 3 here, lizard, and they show me a lizard's tongue. You know how they like kind of flick out their tongue, I think. So the message is you are really protected. Some lizards, okay? You are really protected from the worst right now. Breathe easy and know things are going to pan out in your favor. So long as you're doing your best to surround yourself with the best energies for you and listen to your divine guidance and intuition, things are really going to go your way. You are protected from the fire that is roaring through the collective and causing transformation, seemingly causing chaos as well. You will still get the transformation, but you will not have to go through the worst. And they also showed the dragon scales and how dragons with their dragon scales are often protected from fire in like fantasy novels or fantasy settings or whatever. Uh, so they're kind of showing that as you. Like there might be some fires roaring through the collectives and transforming things and maybe even transmuting lower consciousness or burning away negative energies. And for a certain amount of people, or maybe even a lot of people, that can be a little bit rough because they've never been through that before. They haven't really prepped for transformation. They haven't really worked on themselves. And now they're being forced to transform or work on things or see things they maybe even didn't want to see. However, if you've been doing the work for this crowd here, you're protected from the worst of that. You'll get the transformation, you'll get the things you need, you'll get the things that are for the highest good for you to get. But it's not going to be like devastating. So, and you can be there for people who are being devastated right now if you feel called to it or if that's your role. Uh, you don't have to force yourself to do it if you don't feel like it's your role or you don't feel called to it. Like you don't have to do anything, I guess, if you think about it a certain way. Sometimes I think people force themselves in roles that don't really suit them because they think it's the right thing, quote unquote, to do. But if they actually listen to their intuition and divine guidance, they'd be like, let those people go through it. You don't have to fix them. You don't have to change them. You can just focus on yourself and live your best life. And that will have the knock on effect it's supposed to have. That's for the highest good. You don't have to fix everything, And so I think sometimes some people put themselves through turmoil they don't have to go through by trying to fix everything that's not theirs to fix. So I would also do a healthy amount of focusing on you and what you're divinely guided to do. And again, it's different if you're divinely guided to do something. You're like, oh, I feel compelled intuitively by the universe to help this person, to be there for them. That's different. That's your role then. That's what the universe has you doing. So just trust your divine guidance and all that, okay? The other thing is like I wouldn't freak out. I'm hearing something about not freaking out about the collective. Like, you don't need to freak out about the collective right now. You also don't need to go through what the collective is going through 24/7. You can detach a bit and live your own life and create things for you and create your own energy bubble through your choices, through your intentions, through your actions, through your habits, through your prayer, through your energy healing, and live that life. And if it is impacted by the collective a little bit, okay, but you don't have to like live in like the throes and the woes of something that's like everything that's happening in the collective, okay? Like you can live your best life. So try to remain empowered that way and try not to think you're at the whim of everything 24/7 or anything wild like that. So number 4, they showed me dragon's blood jasper, the crystal. And then they told me to look it up, okay? They gave me that phrase. I'm like, okay, so I'll Google this. And the thing they told me to talk about the page I found about it, that they had me click on, talked about was conquering obstacles because there were a few meanings of like, courage, adaptability, the ability to conquer obstacles, and they're like that. So now is a great time to. So here's what came through. Now is a great time to do trauma healing work. Excuse me, to move forward to conquer the obstacles in front of you. You have what it takes. You have the wherewithal and wit, or you have the tools. What do you need to do to overcome your obstacles? Answer that intuitively. Ask the universe, and the answer will come. So it's a good time to move forward and conquer obstacles. A lot of obstacles aren't as solid as they appear to be. You might have something that looks like a solid rock or maybe a wall in front of you. But if you walk up to it or pass through it, it's just an illusion. You can walk right through the wall, or you could just push this rock over and it's just delicately balanced. And it was not really a big obstacle, maybe even for the whole time. It just appeared to be. And sometimes we just let obstacles look a lot bigger than they are. This is a good week to push through that and maybe even test the obstacles. Is this really an obstacle? Is this really in my way? Or is this something I really do need to consider and find a different way to work around? So, an example might be, let me see if they'll give me an example for this here. Maybe you'd like to start a business and you're like, oh, I don't have the money to start this business. Have you really looked at all your options? Because you might find that you thought you needed $5,000 to start your business, but then there's a way to do it that only costs 100 and you can swing that. For example, when you really test it and like look into it or try to do it. So try not to buy things at face value regarding your obstacles right now, I guess. Like, trust your intuition regarding it, of course. But I'd at least be testing your obstacles this week and be like, oh, is it true that I can't do this? Oh, is it true that this obstacle is here? Oh, is it true that if I talk to this person, it's going to go poorly? Is it true that setting this boundary is going to be the worst thing ever in my life if I do it? Maybe this person will be more understanding than you think they will. And so, again, trust your intuition on that. That's just kind of what's coming through is just again, there's kind of these different messages of taking action, leaping forward towards what you desire, conquering your obstacles. Like that seems to be a flavor showing up this week and probably for the next couple as well. It's not like all these things just like stop once the week ends. Yeah, maybe sometimes if it's especially synchronistic or there's especially a reason for it to be only 1 week. That's a different story though. So let me see where they're going next here. I would also pay attention to the other meanings of dragon's blood jasper. Maybe if you have that crystal or mineral, you keep it on you. If you have like a tumble or you just do some work with it or work with that energy somehow, maybe look up the meaning for yourself and see if anything else jumps out at you. Sometimes they tell me to like Google things or to write things down and Google things because there's also something on those like different pages you might Google or Bing or whatever for you. So keep that in mind. Number 5 here, take a break from the puzzles you can't solve. So this is going to be a kind of multi-angle one here, a bit multifaceted. So this doesn't mean don't take action. For some of you, you will need a break this week, like a day or a weekend or 3 days, or maybe you'll get sick and you'll be forced to take a break for some of you. For others of you, and this part might be a bit more all-encompassing. However, there have been potentially some complex puzzles in your life that you've been trying to figure out, and that's kind of a metaphor too. It probably is not. I mean, it'd be really funny if it was literally like a 500 piece puzzle on your table. You're like, I can't do it. um, But this is probably more metaphorical for a lot of you, where there have been some complex puzzles in your life you've been trying to figure out, but you really just need to take a break from it, and those things will solve themselves, or the idea will just drop in your lap on how to approach it. So, not everything is on you. You have the whole universe to help you with things. Ask for that help and manifest it. Sometimes, when we take breaks from things, those things resolve themselves. Sometimes the universe works it out for us. So, anywhere you're just like trying to wrap your mind about around 20 different things at once, or how you're going to solve this big issue and you can't seem to do anything about it, or how you're going to solve this relationship issue, maybe just relax on it, take a break from it if you can, if that makes sense for you, and see what kind of starts to move as you let the universe handle it for a week or so. Depending on how this resonates and, excuse me, lands for you, you just like don't have to solve everything, is what I'm hearing. So try to give certain complex puzzles in your life, whatever that represents for you, a break, at least for like a day, this week, if you can afford it. Number six, they show me a scarecrow. There's just this message that things that aren't for you are being scared away. So if you notice something running away from you, don't chase it. Instead, be grateful for the clarity and move towards what is for you that isn't running. And if something is for you that's running, at some point, it's going to run right back, probably in your future. It's going to come back. However, sometimes if it's a person, for example, is kind of the example that keeps popping into my head for this, where maybe you'd really like to date someone and they're like kind of interested and then they just like bolt and run. And you're like, no, maybe it's time to just take that as a sign and trust they'll come back if they're supposed to, and just approach the things that are waiting for you, or the things that are there for you that don't run away. This doesn't mean you have to date someone who's not running that you don't want to date, by the way. It's your own life. Don't feel like you have to date someone you don't want to date necessarily. Okay. I mean, trust your intuition on it and stuff. But if things just keep running away from you, they're not for you, is kind of what I'm getting with this one, interestingly enough. So take that as it resonates. Number seven, let me see what they'd like me to say about this one here. It's a reminder, mainly like not to quit something before you really know you're supposed to quit it. Like sometimes it just takes a week before something happens and you have a breakthrough or something like that. And the other side message, nope, never mind. They don't want me to say that one. So, that's just a reminder. I think sometimes we do want to quit something right before the breakthrough. And sometimes we just have to check with our intuition, like, is it really time to quit this? And if you're getting a strong yes and all the signs are there, okay, maybe it's time to quit that. It's time to listen to our intuition on that. But if it's just like a human frustration, we're like, "Meow," but spirit's like, no, wait, hang in there. Wait, hang in there. Wait, hang in there. There's probably a reason you need to like hang in there, and it'll get good, or it will allow something that's really good, or it will shift into something that's good in the future. Or spirit's just waiting for the correct, like, off exit ramp, where it's like the right time and way to get out of a situation. Um, so, for example, if you have a job and maybe it sucks for some reason, and you're like, oh, I need to get out of here right freaking now. Oh my God. And you're like doing everything and you're like thrashing around in your circumstances and like panicking. And Spirit's like, wait, just hang on. Don't take the first thing that comes your way. Like, give it a second, because you might be tempted to take like a really crappy opportunity that would get you an out, but maybe it's worse, or maybe it's the same in a different way, or maybe it's just slightly better, but there's something really, really good for you if you just hold out like another week, for example. And that's just an example. So that's kind of why they're saying like trust your intuition on that. So the last thing is trust your heart. Stop listening to everyone else when that's the best answer. And I could tell you a ton of stories when I got burned for listening to someone else over my own intuition. And maybe I didn't realize that the someone else didn't have my best interest at heart in the past in those instances. Or maybe that was spirit showing me like, hey, you really need to trust your intuition and your divine guidance. For you, it's accurate and you have it for a reason. Stop turning to everyone else when you already know the answers. So anywhere you're doing that, and especially if you're intuitive and divinely guided, like, you don't always have to put everyone else's stuff before your own. And I wouldn't even worry about making people feel bad. I would just do what's best for you and let the pieces fall where they may, because that's going to lead to best results. And trying to please everyone and people please everyone, does that ever lead to best results? Very rarely. Does it ever lead to best results for you? It may be very occasionally, but if you're trusting your intuition, you'll know if that's ever a proper tactic to employ for yourself, or if you need to do something else that's going to lead to the best results long term for you, regardless of what people think, because who cares? They could fall out of your life tomorrow. Anyways, you don't need to please everyone, and you're not here on earth to people please everyone, probably. You know, God probably didn't put you on earth and go, "Oh yeah, you're just here to please all the narcissists and all the people who are really judgmental. Don't rock the boat. Just sit there and take it. Yep, you're doing great." Like that's not changing the world. That's not changing your life. That's not changing anything for the better. Sometimes rocking the boat is the answer. And even if there is a little bit of chaos that's created from that, perhaps that's what's going to create the best result in the end, and perhaps God is working through that in some way if you're divinely guided to do it. So that's it. I hope this helped, resonated to whatever was for your eyes good. If you're ever interested in going further with me and any of my work, you can check out my website in the link below. I have a monthly membership with a lot more channel content, channel guided meditations, full channel mode sessions, and things like that. And I also have one-on-one channeled intuitive mentoring sessions if you'd like to go deep on achieving your targets or growing your gifts or a spiritual business or something like that if you feel called to it. And of course, there are other things like one-on-one channeled intuitive readings and things like that as well. So if you feel called to work with me, I'll see you there. And otherwise, take care.